Welcome to my Snoopy's Grand Adventure submission video for AGDQ 2017. This is my second of two submissions for this game, and I will be submitting the any percent category in this video. The other video I have is all friends, and I'll be discussing sort of the difference between the two as I go through the game. So without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, Snoopy. Very first thing we do is skip the opening cutscene and jump right into the game. So this game is a pretty straightforward platformer starring Snoopy, everybody's favorite Beagle. And it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Snoopy just going through some interesting platforming levels. To anyone who's watching both of my submission videos, I apologize that a lot of my commentary will be pretty similar, especially as we go through the same levels. Yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. But on that note, the first thing worth calling out is that Snoopy, in addition to your normal platforming, moving and jumping, has the ability to hover and literally become Dixie Kong. And the hover is a really important ability in the speedrun because it lets you move over large gaps quickly, save time, and not needing to go around through different areas. And perhaps most importantly, you don't lose any time by initiating a hover. It keeps you going at the same speed as normal movement. In fact, more than that, the hover actually keeps the same speed you used whenever you entered the hover. So it's a really useful ability, especially when I start doing something called speed hovers, which I'll explain a little bit later. So here we are in level 2, which introduces these platforms, these little trampolines. And these are used a lot in this run. And you can get a lot of speed from them, especially the ones that are at an angle, and we'll use them to great effect. So this is the any percent category of this game, and the plot of this game is basically that Snoopy and Charlie Brown and his friends are playing hide and seek, and it's up to Snoopy to go find them all. And they've chosen some pretty wacky areas to go hide. I guess the back of the game box says that it's a journey through Snoopy's imagination, so Snoopy is one imaginative pup, so we've got some pretty interesting areas to explore. But in any percent, missed the cycle, in any percent, you actually don't need to find almost any of Charlie Brown's friends. I found out pretty recently, actually, that the way you trigger the end credits is by only beating the final boss, so the boss of the 6th world. None of the other bosses are actually necessary to fight, and since you don't fight any of those bosses, you don't save any or find any of the friends. So this category is faster. I think it's a little less interesting. I think that the bosses are pretty cool in this game, and it's fun to see all the Peanuts characters. But it's about 20 minutes faster by cutting out a few levels, most notably some auto-scrollers that can be a little bit slow. And the reason we're able to skip those bosses is because to unlock the next world, you don't actually have to beat the boss. All you have to do to unlock a world is grab a key.
You found a new Snoopy costume.
So the keys do two things. They unlock the next world, so you see their Temple of Bunnies, and they also unlock a Snoopy costume. The Snoopy costumes are, I think, what really make this an interesting run, is you can use them all in some pretty interesting ways. The first Snoopy costume I unlocked there is what's called the... Hold on, I have to get up here quickly. Do not want to miss that by. That's a slow one to miss. But the first Snoopy costume I unlocked there is the Beagle Scout costume, and what that does is lets me climb vines. Now, the downside of having a Snoopy costume is that you cannot hover anymore. So it's kind of a trade-off as you go throughout it. Do you want to keep a Snoopy costume to be able to use its ability? Like right here, I somehow didn't grab that. That was not preferred, but whatever. Forgot to just press square. It's not like it's a hard thing to do. But here I need to use the Beagle Scout costume to climb these vines. But since I can't hover, I lose some speed in some places. Now you can use the Beagle Scout costume if you have a boost going off one of those trampolines to glide and go across those vines really quickly. I call that speed vines. It's a little bit sloppy at the end of this stage, but not too bad. But now, since we got that key earlier in the level, we're able to unlock World 2. So I'm going to pause, quit back to the menu, and go straight to World 2. And this is the beauty of any percent. Interesting little sound glitch there. Now, the reason I couldn't just save and quit right after grabbing the key is the game actually doesn't save until you finish a level. So whenever we get to a level that has a key, we have to finish that particular stage, but can skip anything that comes after it in the world. Now, something worth pointing out at the start of this stage is that I was already moving when the level loaded. And that's something that is true in every stage in the game. The game starts accepting inputs before it's done loading. And this is something I figured out because I started learning this game on the Wii U version, and the Wii U load times are really, really slow, like 20 seconds per stage. So I'm going to take that a little safe because I'm low on hearts, but and that's another thing about any percent that I'll talk about shortly. But hold on, make sure I get through here. Okay. But, so yeah, the 20-second load time. So I just kind of learned that you can actually just hold the direction you want to go and Snoopy will start moving there. It has more of an impact in the Wii U version because the load times are so much longer, so Snoopy actually starts moving sooner. But, did I get it? I think I missed it. Nope, got it, good. But barely made that. But the PS4 version, which is what I'm playing on now, is a lot faster. The load times aren't 20 seconds, and I think my first PS4 run actually saved 8 minutes over my Wii U one, and that wasn't even necessarily a very good run. But, so anyway, the hearts. This game is a pretty easy game, like I said earlier. It's definitely targeted toward a younger audience, and I would really consider it to be a beginning level platform game. Designed kind of to teach maybe a younger or newer player some of the basic mechanics of video games. So one of those things is hearts and taking damage and stuff, but it's very forgiving in that not if you okay, good, I just missed it, and I missed that cycle. So if I go perfectly through this level, I'll be able to catch that vine without waiting, because everything is, I believe, on a global timer in this game. But so if you notice, my heart floated up above me there, and that's because when you get hit in this game, it gives you the opportunity to re-grab your heart. So now I'm not going to be doing a lot of that unless I get desperate or in a tricky situation, because it's obviously slow to go back and re-grab a heart. So that's one of the things that makes the speed run a little more dangerous, I guess, than maybe a normal playthrough would be, is that the game expects you to be able to go re-grab hearts, but I'm not going to do it. And more than that, in any percent, I'm pretty much going to only have 3 hearts for the entire game. In this, you get a heart whenever you beat a boss, which I'm not beating any bosses, so I'm keeping 3 hearts. And that means that a lot of stages, like this one, where I do damage boosts to move more quickly, become a lot more risky than they are in what I call the all friends category, which you go through and actually do find all of Charlie Brown's friends. So right here we've got what's called a speed hover. Actually, I got hung up. There's an invisible wall there that sometimes catches you up, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It's basically using a boost from a trampoline or something to get extra speed going into your hover. So now I'm down to only 2 hearts, so I've got to be careful to not take any damage for the rest of the stage, because there's a damage boost at the end that I like to do. So I'm going to save this here because it's faster to do the damage boost at the end than it would have been to take one there. this whole part here. So that's something I would never think twice about taking some damage if I was in any percent, but or in all friends, but in any percent, you got to be a little more careful. So we're going on to level 4, which is where we get our next key and our next Snoopy costume. Bunny Blitz. So I'm holding left and mashing B to get up there right away.
Each costume
And we
has a
get the
unique
lunar
Snoopy
surface
power.
unlocked, which is World 3, and also the rocket costume, or the spaceman, space dog costume. And it's exactly what it looks like. It lets me jump really high, which is used in places like this to go and skip trampolines or jump around platforms really quickly. But the downside is that if I jump too high, I'm going to have to wait a while for it to land before I can continue moving. So I have to be pretty careful with these jumps to make sure that they don't... okay, I'm low on hearts again. That's not ideal. So make sure that they don't go too high. Okay, that was good. Like right there, I jumped a little bit too high. Lost some time. And the reason I held on to this costume, even though it presents that risk, is because this end part of this stage can be kind of dangerous if you don't... Good. If you don't have this costume. Really easy to fall down there or miss a jump and get stuck between those moving platforms and just waste a lot of time. So, we've got another key, so we're going to get back to the menu and go straight to World 3. Now, World 3, I think, is where this game starts to really shine as a speed game. Because the speed hovers that I sort of introduced earlier start to really become important, become a real thing. So I'm not holding a direction when I start here because I do not want to accidentally walk into that pit of orange gas. Like I fell right there. You can see that orange gas slows you down a lot. Conversely, though, the green gas speeds you up a lot and allows you to do some really awesome speed hovers. And then you have these anti-gravity fields that let you jump really high. So when you can combine speed hovers and those little green gas clouds with anti-gravity fields and another ability we're going to get towards the end of this world, you can get some pretty cool stuff going on. We got another green gas cloud coming up here. Oops, just missed the gas, the anti-gravity. But yeah, this you can kind of see already why World 3 is so cool. It's just really neat to watch. Lots of cool movement. And you just the kind of thing you never would have expected to see Snoopy do. I mean, Snoopy's a beloved classic character, yet here he is just cruising through these levels like it's nobody's business. 3-1. So in addition to every stage holding which direction to go, I have to try to remember which direction to go whenever I exit a stage. Now this stage has an important cycle I need to make at the beginning, and I actually might have just missed it by not jumping. Yeah, there's no way I make this. So I missed that, and now I have to wait for this next UFO. So it's not that long, but it's a mistake that cost some time. It's because I jumped into the wall at the beginning. I was holding right a little too early. And then I missed that cycle too. That's unfortunate. But I think that actually serves to illustrate why I think this game is pretty safe for a marathon perspective. Is not only do we have the hearts that are pretty forgiving, but there are no bottomless pits. Basically, it's really hard to die in this. And as I get better, the chance of me dying just gets less and less. So the most time you're really going to lose is like 5 to 10 seconds here or there. Can I make this? Cool. So that makes it a very marathon safe game. And the estimate, whatever estimate, is pretty safe too. Obviously, I'd still like to go as fast as possible, but I mean, mistakes happen. that probably right there actually is one of the worst mistakes you can make. But here's a good example of how neat those anti-gravity abilities can be. You just hold X and blast up through the stage. Bounce off this guy, and we're through. Level 3. So another thing about this game that I think makes it kind of interesting is the levels are all really, really big. I've tried to find the fastest way through them, but every level in this game is almost like a maze, with lots of different paths up and down and all around that you can take to get through to the end. So routing it out and trying to find the fastest way through to move, like I could go down here, I could have gone up on those UFOs, but finding just the truly fastest way has been quite a bit of fun, and I've never actually tried to route a game myself before, so this one was sort of challenging in that regard, just because there are so many options. And I think that's one of the things that gives it so much appeal and a lot of replay value too, is that there's a lot of ways to move through it. And you've probably noticed I'm collecting jelly beans as I move through the stages. The two main collectibles in this are those jelly beans, which supposedly Charlie Brown dropped as he was going through the levels, and the Beagle Scouts, which are the little Woodstock bird guys. I have not actually gone through and collected all those. There's a Beagle Scout. Gone through and collected all these things yet, so I can't imagine how difficult a 100% category would be, because you have to come back and revisit after you get keys.
You found a new Snoopy
things like
costume. Each costume has a unique Snoopy power.
So this Snoopy costume is the World 1 Flying Ace costume, and we're actually not going to see that. That is World 4, which is the auto-scroller world, and it doesn't have any keys to unlock anything. So it's kind of sad that we miss out on that classic Snoopy costume, but it's faster. So here is probably one of my favorite stages, and right there you get to see a little bit about
You found a new Snoopy
combining a
costume.
speed hover
Each
with a
costume
quick
has a
jump off the
unique Snoopy
ground, one of
power.
those green gas clouds, but also we get now the Bandit costume. And the Bandit costume lets us break through these barriers, but it also gives us this dash ability. And Snoopy can dash in the air, which means he is exactly Mega Man X. So we are definitely playing X2 right now, everybody.
We found a Beagle Scout. Can you
Right there
find
is
the
my
rest
favorite
of the
one of
troop?
those jumps in probably the whole game. Now, I have to be careful that with the dashing that it's really easy to just try to dash. Got hung up there a little bit on those UFOs. To just dash as much as you want to, but if you're not careful with the dashes, you can over-dash platforms really easily, or dash at a wrong place and fall and then need to move around. But that was pretty good stage. And since it introduces the Bandit costume, it's one of my favorites. You'll be seeing a lot of that in the stages where he shows up through the rest of this. Okay. World 3. And I'm really sad to skip the World 3 boss. The World 3 boss is really entertaining. So my offer for AGDQ is for this, I offer this category, and then I think the All Friends category, which shows all the bosses, shows, oops, there we go. I got a little distracted by my talking there. Which shows all the bosses, shows all the friends, is a good donation incentive. Okay, we're back on track. Make the cycle? No. So that's a tight cycle to make. Ideally, I can get to this air vent without having to wait a cycle, but it's not 100%. Now, World 5 is actually where I think this game starts to get kind of difficult. Not necessarily in the you might die sense, but in the platforming, it gets a lot tighter and a lot more difficult. Now, this is the one key that doesn't unlock another world, but it does give us the Joe Cool costume, one of Snoopy's classic alter egos. And Joe Cool is literally so cool that he actively freezes the enemies. Joe Cool also has a double jump, so the double jump is pretty useful to get around different places pretty quickly. Oops, dang. Usually the double jump there is able to get me up, but for some reason it didn't seem to take that time. That's a costly place to fall, but we're through. Pretty painless. Okay. Soggy Station. So this is another Bandit level. And this one actually has some pretty tight Bandit movement. I want to make sure I do not fall here. And I think I should be okay. Yes. Good. Perfect. Well, almost perfect. Swimming is a little weird in this game. It's mashing actually does not help you go any faster, so I don't think I've quite mastered the rhythm to swim optimally through the game. Good night, buddy. Yep, I'm doing Snoopy. So that was my son. My son is a lot of ways the reason I'm playing this game. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Losing the costume and dashing on the same button, so that's why that happened. But good night, buddy. My son bought this game with his allowance. It was something that he was wanting to play for a long time, but I really didn't want to get it because, as most of you know, a lot of times movie companion games are not usually that good. So I didn't want him to play a bad game. But it turns out that he saved up his allowance, and it was for sale on Amazon.com one day for $11.03, and he happened to have in his allowance exactly $11.08. So he was able to buy it, started playing it, and as I started looking into it, I thought, wait, there's some stuff in this that might kind of make for a neat speed run. Like, there's all these different hats and costumes, and there's a lot of stuff that you can kind of move pretty quickly. The levels actually seem pretty interesting, and that was something that impressed me, because a lot of movie companion games aren't as good as this. They're like, they just kind of try to make a cheap buck off of the movie, and while I'm sure there's some component to that, as this is like the tie-in to the Peanuts movie, it's actually quite fun. Like, you can tell that they really put a lot of care into the design of it, into the levels. It's just a really pretty game. The graphics are really nice. It's got a lot of heart. It definitely, I think, does the perfect job of appealing to its target audience too, because my 5-year-old son has loved playing it, loved exploring the different levels. It's really captured his imagination, and I think it's actually made him better at video games. Like, I've tried to get him started by playing Mario 1, and because I want him to, start with NES and move on to SNES and the stuff I grew up with. But him playing this, he for a long time had trouble getting past level 2 in Super Mario Brothers. But once he played this for a while, now he could get past level 2 almost every time with fireballs. So just the kind of the basic platforming training that this game has sort of provided has been a cool thing for him to get better, to get good. Oh, just missed it. Obviously, making it to that jump would have been preferred there. But we're on to the last level in this world and get our next key. It's a sad that we're not going to do this boss either. This boss is pretty fun and has another nice Donkey Kong Country reference for me. But maybe the All Friends donation incentive would be interesting enough to get people to give and hopefully show that off. Get the rocket costume, okay, or we could miss it a little bit. This part is a little bit tricky, but I think I did it. No. Oh, I fell. Okay, back on. And we're good. Thanks. All right. That part's weird. That part's pretty tough to do optimally, so one fall there actually is not that bad. get our final costume here.
You found a new Snoopy costume.
Melody
Each costume
Chateau
has a unique
unlocked.
Snoopy power.
That is indeed the final world. And the final costume is the detective costume. Now the detective costume simply lets you go through these walls that aren't really there.
You found a Beagle Scout.
Now the sad thing
Can you
about the
find the
detective
rest of the
costume
troop?
is that those walls actually are solid if you're not wearing the costume. So it's not like I can skip the costume and go through those walls, which is unfortunate because there's no other utility to this costume. It's you just basically lose your hover to go through those walls. However, we will be using it in the next world just because there are places where going through those walls and shortcuts is quite a bit faster than not. But this will be our last save and quit. I believe my current PB is 34, 50 something, maybe 40 something. So right now I'm on pace, I think, to beat that. So now this level I think is the most dangerous level in any percent because there's a lot of places to take damage, and as I mentioned before, I've only got 3 hearts. The game expects me to have 8 hearts by now and the ability to re-grab them. So in this level, if I get hit in places I'm not planning to, I will almost certainly re-grab hearts. So here's an intentional damage. I wait a little bit here to make sure I can get on there and not take damage from below. Same thing here, wait a sec to make sure we don't fall and take damage. So I mean, in all friends, I'm just running through this taking damage like crazy, not worrying at all about what kind of hits I take because you just have so many hearts that it's not a concern. But in this category, if I'm not careful, I will regret it. It's also, there's a few different paths through the end here. Come up to get the Bandit. I'm pretty sure it's worth it. Well, not if you bounce all around like an idiot, but pretty sure it's worth it to save the time there. Oh, don't get hit. I got hit. It's okay. Close enough to the end now that they give me health right at the end too. So that went pretty well. Could have been a little faster, but I'm pleased with it. Okay, sometimes the doors don't want to open. That's all right. So that one, I've had trouble making that on the first pass. I'm pretty sure you can do it, but the last few runs I've had just haven't seemed to do it, so I might have to put a little work into the beginning of this stage. Probably need to put a little work into a lot of it, but so there's a little bit of intentional damage to not bounce on the enemies, because bouncing on enemies when you don't want to shoots you into the air, and then you have to wait to fall down.
Can you find the rest of the troop?
Switch to Joe Cool because he's actually useful. I like this stage a lot, actually. It's a pretty short stage, but has some neat stuff in it. I like the rope movement here with Joe Cool. So the game normally wants you to kind of bounce from side to side on those timpanis. Yes, you are literally bouncing off timpanis. I haven't really talked about this world yet. I think this is... Oh, weird. I've never failed to make it under that bat before. So that's not good, but this is definitely my favorite world in the game. The levels are way more interesting than the rest of it. The platforming is somewhat difficult. The music is really neat, and the enemies are just super quirky. There's giant Beethoven heads walking around. Like, what a weird, neat thing that is. I mean, there's Beethoven hanging on the back. Like, what a cool world. So this will be the only world that we actually save a friend in, or find a hidden friend in. And it's probably, if you're familiar with Peanuts at all, it's probably not hard to guess which friend is hanging out in the musical Beethoven-centric world. Now this stage is, oh my god, I'm not going to make it. I don't know if I can make this on the first cycle. I moved pretty well through the first half. So this stage is almost an auto-scroller because there's a lot of these platforms that, since, like I said, we're on a global timer, and we can not necessarily make the cycle if we're too slow. But some of them, they always seem to be in the same place when I get there, so that almost makes me question my global timer theory, so needs more research. But probably a good time for donations. There are a few levels where I could quiet down and leave time for donations too, certainly. So I'm going to take intentional damage here, which leaves me with 1 heart. It's better to take that damage there on that, I guess these are oboes or bassoons or something, than it would be to, better to take the damage than it would be to risk jumping onto the timpani, because the timpani will launch you up really high and waste a ton of time while you wait to fall back down, and that is not something you want to do. I really want to figure out if there's a way that I can get over there fast enough to land on that bat and jump up to this ledge. Haven't been able to do it yet, but that would help save one of those platform cycles. But we are now moving on to the last stage, the last normal level of the game. And this level is actually very fun. This is one of my favorite levels of the game, so it's an appropriate way to end the whole thing. Get our final speed hover. I got the full speed hover that time, so that's good. Oh, what? I pushed square? Come on, game. So the use of the rocket suit in this level is particularly easy to lose time if I jump too high on some of these platforms. These ones don't matter so much, but some of them, like this one right here, where if the sooner I land, the sooner I can turn around and start jumping for the other direction. Same here. Right there, lose a little bit of time because I fell, or I jumped too high rather. Now I want to take some really big jumps to try to clear a lot of space. And now, alright, I guess we're taking the water. Ideally, going through this part, you want to stay up on top of those platforms, so I lose a little bit of time by falling into the water. That's okay. Just some of the quirks of controlling the rocket costume are kind of difficult. Okay, that's weird. Fortunately, this is our final swimming section. You always get launched really quickly out of there. And we get to finish with the Bandit costume. Get it? Oh, just missed. But it's okay. Last stage. Alright. So now we go and face the one and only boss that we see in this category. And it's not... it'll be close. PB is possible, but it'll be tight. The Marble Pianist. So basically what you need to do is get these giant piano hands to try to knock themselves on these keys. Oh man, come back, come back. Right here. Got one of them. right here. Perfect. And here, last hit. And then they break themselves, and this will be very close to a PB. And time. I think that's a PB. Not by much, though. And so anyway, the credits. That's Snoopy's Grand Adventure. So yeah, that's any percent. Got a lot. You show off a lot of the levels. You show off some of the movement tech, the costumes, which are pretty fun. You don't get to see the bosses. You don't get to see all of Charlie Brown's friends. And you don't get the final cutscene, because the final cutscene in the game, when you collect all the friends, is I guess the true ending, if you will. Shows off all his friends, and there they are, and they have a little classic Charlie Brown style dance party. Oh yeah, 34-43. Woo! If I was playing Donkey Kong Country 1, this would be a pretty good time. But anyways, that's my submissions for Snoopy's Grand Adventure. Thank you for taking the time to consider it. Thank you, chat, for your support. It's a fun little game. Pretty simple, but I think pretty neat and fun to see a beloved character doing such crazy stuff. So, thank you.